Hey everyone, welcome to Ashleyland. I'm super excited for the launch of my YouTube channel, and I just want to say thank you to all of you out there who continue to support me. It means so much. So, very often we see people when they are at their peak, but rarely do we see what it took for them to get there. That's why this week I'm giving you all a glimpse into my life story. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and when people hear Chicago, they automatically think about violence, they think about crime. There's a lot of stereotypes out there about Chicago, and obviously some of them are true. They're based on truth. But at the same time, I just remember my time growing up being filled with love and family. We lived in a working class neighborhood. I grew up with my mom and my brother. My mom was like my sole provider, so she was always working a lot. She's a hairstylist and like a beautician, and so I would babysit my brother after school. I also grew up, my dad's side of the family is a very tight-knit spiritual family. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible told me so, because that's what we would have drilled in our heads every Sunday. You know, we used to do family reunions and block parties, and we would go to Cedar Point in Ohio, like on this big coach bus, and Kings Island. And our family is originally from Mississippi, so we would drive there and we would explore. We just really have like Southern roots, and so my family is like this. I was a shy kid. I was always, like, my head was always in the books. I would get straight A's, but also I feel like I've always loved TV from a young age. Like when I would get home from school at like 2:30, I'd be like, all right mom, let's go. It's time to turn on Arthur, it's time to turn on Caillou. Like, I'm ready. Along with the love of TV, I think I've always had a love of entertainment. In the industry. I didn't really know what it was, but I knew that I wanted to be in it, if that makes sense. I remember looking at Disney Channel and wanting to do the whole wand thing, like, my name is Ashley and you're watching Disney Channel. And I'd be like, doo 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 doo. I would practice that in the mirror every single day. I actually remember one time my mom took me to audition and we went, and I was like super excited. When I got there, she took me and my brother after literally days, weeks of me asking. She was like, no, you're not gonna do it. She finally took me and my brother, and I was so shy. Like, they were like, this girl is not gonna be on TV. Like, she is super shy. She's not even performing for us. Meanwhile, my brother's over there moonwalking like Michael Jackson, and he gets a call back and I don't. Wasted opportunities, I tell you. Up to high school, I went to predominantly black schools because they were on the south side of Chicago. I transferred a couple of times. And so for high school, Chicago has this thing where you can test into a high school that is not in your neighborhood. And so I tested into Walter Payton College Prep. Shout out to Grizzlies. And that was the first time I was around like white people, like for an extended time. Like, I don't think I ever saw them really, and that experience was just so beneficial because the resources, the building, the staff, like, they were all dedicated to getting us to college. It was a college prep. Especially as a first generation college student, I definitely needed those resources and that support. In high school, I also attended a leadership conference called the Illinois Leadership Seminars. Shout out to ILS. That conference really changed my life and made me into a better leader. They're all about unleashing leadership potential in high school youth, and I feel like I learned how to break out of my box and not really care what people say about what I wanted to do. And I feel like I prefaced before that I was kind of quiet, and I think that was one of the first places where I really broke out and decided, you know what, like, I'm just gonna be loud and I'm not gonna care. I got my first job in high school. They had this program in Chicago called After School Matters, and so you could do like different art programs and get paid for them, kind of like an apprenticeship. I remember I did the mosaics one. I didn't know what mosaics was, but it was the only one open and I needed money, and so I was like, I'm gonna do this. But we created murals all around the city, and so There is a tunnel near Shedd Aquarium in Chicago that has a mural that I helped create, and my name is forever engraved on there. And so that is a super cool experience, and if you ever go to Chicago, I will tell you where it is so you can go see my name. I think what's also interesting about high school is that I wrote my college essay on being an Oreo. And if you guys don't know, in the Black community, you know, you say someone's an Oreo when they're acting white on the inside and they're black on the outside. And my essay was about how I didn't want to be an Oreo. I just wanted to be myself. And I guess Pomona ate that shit up and they accepted me. And so transitioning to Pomona, Pomona is a liberal arts college in Claremont, California. I will never forget when I first told my mom about it, because I went on like a trip to go visit the campus and they paid for it. And so I was like, I want to be in California. But mom was like, why are you going to a community college? And I was like, Mom, why would I travel all the way to California to go to a community college? That don't make sense. Pomona, yo, that was the first time I entered as a freshman. I was like, this is the first time I've seen wealth. Wealth like steak and salmon nights, Mongolian walk nights. Like this was our cafeteria. They had so many like internship programs. Like I did my first internship, and like since then I did like 5 in college, and they paid for them all. I did study abroad. I went to Spain like for free. They paid for my passport and everything. My first trip out of the country was in Costa Rica in high school, but I literally went to Spain for free for a whole semester. I think another important part of my college story is that I entered in 2012, literally the year that Trayvon Martin was murdered. So I feel like that shaped a lot of the experience, like Trayvon Martin, and then there was Mike Brown, and then there was Tamir Rice, and all of this was happening at the same time. So I really launched into activism at that point, because all the Black students on campus were just fed up. The white kids didn't understand. I remember we had this Black Lives Matter mural and someone defaced it with like a penis. So we protested. I remember it was very heated on campus, but I feel like that was such a key part of my experience, because obviously I'm jumping ahead, but my first job was at a nonprofit doing social justice. I think another thing that I have to mention is that in college, it was also a part of the most stressful times of my life. In college, I lost 2 of the most important people to me, my dad and my grandma. My dad passed away in 2014. I was a sophomore. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I had just left Chicago to go back to school for the winter, like spring semester, and I got the call from my mom. She called me once. I was like with a friend, so I didn't answer, and then she kept calling me, and I was like, something is wrong. And so she tells me like, are you sitting down? Like, are you in a quiet space? And I'm like, what do you want? And she was just like, your dad had a heart attack. And that was one of the most difficult things I ever experienced. Like, experiencing sudden loss of a parent. It's nothing like it. Like, I can't even explain to you how it feels. My grandma, she was getting sick for a while. She passed away literally weeks before my graduation from college, and it was so sucky because like I was in the finals, I couldn't really go back home. It was just all so sudden, but she was really the person who preached education and making sure that I get an education, because that's something no one can take from me. And so to not have her there in that moment when I graduated was really, really sad. One of my biggest accomplishments that I ever did was being the commencement speaker for my college graduating class. My classmates voted me to speak on their behalf at graduation, and I just couldn't even believe it. I was like, what do I have to say? I don't have anything to say. I have nothing to say. I literally wrote that speech the night before. I did not sleep. I almost missed graduation because I was so tired. But I was like, I wanted it to be something that everyone could be proud of, because I was speaking on their behalf. Like, everyone's parents are there, everyone's loved one's parents. It's like 1,000 people plus in the audience. However, I did not let that stop my experience for speaking on behalf of the marginalized groups and the people of color. So I called out racism to this whole outside backyard seating arrangement of like 70% white people. I called out racism, I called out white supremacy. I was like, you know what? I love Pomona and I have experienced so much here and had so many great memories, but also y'all were on some dirt. We need to be the change that we want to see in the world, and that starts here. After my speech, I got like a standing ovation. I was like, oh my gosh. It was so nerve-wracking, and so that was like, I will never forget that moment. Also, that day was just so amazing because all of my family literally traveled to California from Chicago to hear me speak. It was like 25 plus of them in the audience. And to top it off, my little baby sister Layla was there. She was about 8 months old. That's also one of the biggest life events that ever happened to me, was her birth. Another part of my life was obviously my first job at Community Coalition. The 3 years that I spent there were some of the best years of my life. I love my Cocoa fam so much. After being at a predominantly white institution for 4 years to being at an organization that's only Black and brown for 3 years, it was like, like I'm at home, these people understand me, they get my experiences. I was a communication assistant, but mainly running the social media for Cocoa, and that was just such an amazing job. Like, as someone who's like 21, fresh out of college, I was in charge of this. I was able to be creative. I really became a storyteller in that job. Just hearing the stories of people in South LA, so similar to stories from the South Side of Chicago that I actually lived growing up. I think that's also another reason why I loved Cocoa so much, is because the similarities between the two cities are just so prevalent. And so I really was able to take the stories and really churn out something for social media that was relatable and understandable, and really highlighted the disparities between South LA and the rest of LA, because listen, inequality is rampant. Also, rewind to post-college, I did not have a job initially, and so I was in LA and I was couch surfing, hustling, trying to figure out how I can get a job. I initially wanted a job in the entertainment industry, but it was taking so long, and so I was literally homeless in LA for 3 months trying to get this job. One of the pieces I was super proud of that I created at Cocoa was a slam poetry video called One Shot that I wrote and performed in the video. And it was one of the first times I actually used my power of writing raps and poems on the side for good. And it went viral. Over 300,000 people saw it, and 2,000 people retweeted it. It was we blew up, and I was like, oh my God, I created a viral video. I created a viral video. And it was talking about gun violence and how this needs to end. Students should not be scared when they enter school. They should not have to fear being gunned down when they're at school. And also, students of color are experiencing this at even higher rates. And so I'm super proud of that piece. Lastly, at Cocoa, I feel like I was able to build my LA community. My Cocoa fam is my Cocoa fam. We are always together. I love them so much. But I think my last couple of months at Cocoa is really telling of how life comes full circle. Full circle. Because it's literally how I have my job now. I wouldn't have had it if I hadn't worked at Cocoa, if I hadn't made those connections. One of my first friends at Cocoa, Anthony, his partner James, interned at Bad Robot. And I knew James through Anthony, and we became friends. I was like, you know what, James, I think I'm ready to move on from Cocoa, and I want you to send me the link on how I can apply for the internship. And everything kind of just flew into place after that. And so I had the interview, and I just remember when I finally got the offer letter, I cried. I straight up cried. My friend Anthony was there. I cried in the office because have you ever felt like you had all this potential, but you didn't know what to do with it, and then your dream was actually being realized in that moment? That's how I felt. Like, I had this dream. I knew I wanted to come to LA and I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, and that has been on my list since I was about 7. I didn't apply to any other colleges besides one in California because I knew I wanted to be here. And to finally be able to break into the industry, it just, I'm gonna cry talking about it right now. I literally, this industry was not made for me, but somehow I got in. And so it's just such a humbling feeling. And so I got into the internship program. It is a rotational internship, and so I was able to experience a lot of parts of the industry. I was able to be like on set for the Star Wars reshoots. I was able to, you know, really just live the dream. I was really living the dream. Midway through, the receptionist was being promoted, and so I applied and I became full-time at Bad Robot. And the dream continues. That's really what it is, but I'm just so blessed to work there. The people there are so amazing. I love being surrounded by creativity all the time. Everyone is so nice. I don't know what to say, but I love you guys at Bad Robot. If you're watching, you all are amazing. And you know, I feel like I'm just really going to be able to fulfill my purpose. We had to create vision statements, and mine is really about creating space for representation on screen and behind the scenes in television, and really talking about social issues that we don't normally see get talked about on TV. And I'm just so pumped and ready to shake this shit up. You know, I'm really excited to shake the TV industry up because our voices deserve to be heard, and I'm so ready. And so all this to say, I just feel like my whole life is full of blessings. So that was a glimpse into my life story. I hope you all enjoy it. I am super excited about this channel. I'm so excited for you all to get a deeper look into me and my life. I feel like I'm super entertaining. I hope you guys think so as well. I also want this to be a collaborative channel, so make sure you comment, subscribe, ask questions. I want this to be a channel that you guys get to know me just as much as I get to know you all, and I'm just super excited about this new adventure, guys. So make sure you comment, like, subscribe, get your girl up there in YouTube numbers, and I will see you next time.